Success in politics demands that you must take your people into confidence about your views and state them very clearly, very politely, very calmly, but nevertheless, state them openly. I always knew that deep down in every human heart, there is mercy and generosity. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin, or his background, or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than the opposite. Education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. Only free men can negotiate, prisoners can't enter in contracts. There are few misfortunes in this world that you cannot turn into a personal triumph if you have the iron will and the necessary skill. Courageous people do not fear forgiving, for the sake of peace. In another conversation I said, "Tell me the truth. When you were leaving prison after 27 years and walking down that road to freedom, didn't you hate them all over again?" And he said, "Absolutely I did, because they'd imprisoned me for so long. I was abused. I didn't get to see my children grow up. I lost my marriage and the best years of my life. I was angry. And I was afraid, because I had not been free in so long. But as I got closer to the car that would take me away, I realized that when I went through that gate, if I still hated them, they would still have me. I wanted to be free. And so I let it go. Money won't create success, the freedom to make it will. I shall stick to our vow. Never, never under any circumstances, to say anything unbecoming of the other. The trouble, of course, is that most successful men are prone to some form of vanity. There comes a stage in their lives when they consider it permissible to be egotistic and to brag to the public at large about their unique achievements. Your victory has demonstrated that no person anywhere in the world should not dare to dream of wanting to change the world for a better place. For a revolution is not just a question of pulling a trigger, its purpose is to create a fair, just society. As a leader, one must sometimes take actions that are unpopular, or whose results will not be known for years to come. As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. It was a useful reminder that all men, even the most seemingly cold-blooded, have a core of decency, and that if their heart is touched, they are capable of changing. If you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy. Then he becomes your partner. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. He knew when to compromise. Yet he never compromised his principles. He was a militant. Yet, a militant who knew how to plan, assess concrete situations and emerge with rational solutions to problems. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Although I am a gregarious person, I love solitude even more. Like the gardener, a leader must take responsibility for what he cultivates. He must mind his work, try to repel enemies, preserve what can be preserved, and eliminate what cannot succeed. Having resentment against someone is like drinking poison and thinking it will kill your enemy. It is most unusual to return to a place that has changed in ways you yourself have altered. It is said that no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. Life has a way of forcing decisions on those who vacillate. I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination, he told the court. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons will live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal for which I hope to live for and to see realized. But my Lord, if it needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die. I am the master of my fate and the captain of my destiny. It is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another. There is a universal respect and even admiration for those who are humble and simple by nature, and who have absolute confidence in all human beings irrespective of their social status. We must use time creatively, and forever realize that the time is always ripe to do right. Tread softly, breathe peacefully, laugh hysterically. The brave man is not the one who has no fears, he is the one who triumphs over his fears. When the water starts boiling, it is foolish to turn off the heat. I have never cared very much for personal prizes. A person does not become a freedom fighter in the hope of winning awards. We owe our children, the most vulnerable citizens in any society, a life free from violence and fear. It is better to lead from behind and to put others in front, especially when you celebrate victory when nice things occur. You take the front line when there is danger. Then people will appreciate your leadership. If you want to make peace with your enemy, You have to work with your enemy. Then he becomes your partner. Nelson Mandela, activist, South African president, Nobel Peace Prize, born 1918. I dream of an Africa which is in peace with itself. Once a person is determined to help themselves, there is nothing that can stop them. A good head and a good heart are always a formidable combination. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. Education is the great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become the head of the mine, that a child of farm workers can become the president of a great nation. It is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another. Peace is the greatest weapon for development that any person can have. It is music and dancing that make me at peace with the world. A freedom fighter learns the hard way that it is the oppressor who defines the nature of the struggle, and the oppressed is often left no recourse but to use methods that mirror those of the oppressor. At a point, one can only fight fire with fire. I could not imagine that the future I was walking toward could compare in any way to the past that I was leaving behind. No single person can liberate a country. You can only liberate a country if you act as a collective. Lead from the front, but don't leave your base behind. I love playing and chatting with children, feeding and putting them to bed with a little story, and being away from the family has troubled me throughout my life. I like relaxing at the house, reading quietly, taking in the sweet smell that comes from the pots, sitting around a table with the family and taking out my wife and children. When you can no longer enjoy these simple pleasures, something valuable is taken away from your life and you feel it in your daily work. I learned that to humiliate another person is to make him suffer an unnecessarily cruel fate. Even as a boy, I defeated my opponents without dishonoring them. I always knew that deep down in every human heart, there is mercy and generosity. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin, or his background, or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Even in the grimmest times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. I knew as well as I knew anything that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom, just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear.